First off, I'm a big fan of this early signing period. It was early Christmas for the Hilltoppers. We got some great clarity that you don't usually have in years past at this time of the year. You have commitments. You have guys that are, you're still concerned about what visits they're going to take in the month of January. But for us, essentially 15, signees today plus a 16th that will count towards this class of 25 and Paul Taylor. We are very excited about this group of players. The thing I'm most excited about is that we addressed some needs. We certainly got some depth at the defensive line position, defensive end. We found an elite pass rusher in Devin Bell. Safeties and defensive backs was going to be a big area of need, and to be able to get a player of the caliber of Malik Okur that can play mid-year. He's going to be a mid-year high school enrollee. That's going to be terrific for us. And then offensive line-wise, we're going to have a very busy January, continuing to allure offensive line, but to get a 6'6", 6'7" offensive tackle in Gunnar Britton, to be able to come in mid-year and compete, and to really fortify the ranks that we have at tackle, particularly the tackle body. That's a big one because the development that he'll have a chance to get with our team. Just looking through, we recruited multiple states. Georgia was a pretty heavy emphasis. Florida, we just got our fourth NLI from the state of Florida, and then if you include Paul Taylor, that's 6. Alabama made some serious headway there between South Alabama and Goshen and Devin Bell, and then Northeast Alabama with Piedmont and Cardavian Myers. Georgia continues to be an area where we want to do a great job in, and we have. Jimmy Lindsay's done a great job. Clayton White done a great job, and there's just Jamie DeBerry's done a very good job. And then we also do have out of respect to 2 of our signees that did sign and are officially Hilltoppers, they have ceremonies that will be coming up, and we haven't released their names, but the state of Kentucky, as we know, is very important to us, and so that I'll leave it at that. But I think that this class is going to be, I think, a historic class to say the least for Western Kentucky. And the recruiting services are what they are, but I do think that this is even out of 15 players that we signed today, this is probably one of the deepest class in terms of upper echelon talent that this program's had, and we'll continue to recruit the best.
Go smoother this time around, having about 12 months to get it done instead of a couple?
Yeah, it did. The thing that went really smoothly is not just the operational side of it, but also just the relationship side. That these players have been to your campus 3 to 5 times, 6 times in some cases, and just that you can look back and when it does get to that, the early signing period is really about it's kind of a put up or shut up type of a day, because you still have time as a student athlete to figure out if that's really where you want to go to school, if that's really the team you want to play for. But the relationships that we had this time around, and the amount of home visits that we did, the amount of unofficial visits, and then the official visitors that we had, it made it so that the relationship was a lot deeper, and it made it so we could get the 15 players of this caliber in this early signing period.
Talk a little bit about Kavaris Thomas and what kind of skills he brings.
Yeah, Kavaris is, he's got an incredible arm talent. He's a winner. He's 25-2 in 2 years as a starting quarterback. Transferred to Lakeland for his senior year, and he was able to play in an offense that kind of featured the throwing game a little bit more prominently. And he's a big guy. He's 6'3", 234 pounds. He's mobile. Can make you miss. He can run through arm tackles. But what I liked the most about Kavaris was not only does he have a lot of physical attributes, he came up on an official visit just a week and a half ago, and I had a chance to install a play on the board. I went through every key point, every attribute of the play within the pass game, and had a lot of details on it the way I installed it to him. I didn't tell him what I was doing. I erased it all, and I said, teach it back to me right then and there, and he was spot on, as good as as I've seen, and that's a litmus test I've used with quarterbacks for quite some time. And the concept wasn't a very simple concept, and he was able to regurgitate all the information and clearly communicate it right back at me. And it really kind of gave me a feel that he not only has great retention, but he's going to be able to learn our offense effectively.
How does his skill set fit in with the other quarterbacks already have?
I think the thing that the skill set that he brings will complement what we have with Drew Eccles, Stephen Duncan, certainly Davis Shanley is just players that can be an attribute in the run game as well. It starts out with being a great passer, but you also want quarterbacks that truly can be positive in the run game. And I think the way that the landscape of college football has transformed over the last 5-10 years, you look at even the CFP Final Four this year, all four quarterbacks are creators with their legs, and even if you're in a pass-heavy offense, those are players that'll get you at least 3-5 first downs a game with their legs, and Kivaris fits right into that mold, and I feel that the athleticism that Drew Eccles and Stephen Duncan and even Davis Shanley have will be they'll be very similar in that regard.
Mike, just how much feedback did you get from these guys who signed, if any, the fact that you had so many guys this past season, freshmen, first-year players, that didn't just play, but contributed a lot. Did you get any feedback from these guys that said, hey, that caught our attention?
It did, and certainly, you're gonna let them know that you're gonna have an opportunity to come in and compete, and I think that's just what you want every year. Regardless of what you're going through roster, whether you're in your fourth year as a head coach in that team, or you're in your first or second year, you want to recruit players that will allow the rising tides to happen on your own roster, and I think we did that in the 2017 class and this 2018 class as it comes to into its totality in February 7th. We want the guys that we bring in to make everybody around us better and raise their level. And for us to have played 11 true freshmen and 15 of the 22, 23 players that we brought in last season, I think that it makes players realize that there's opportunities to compete and play. Not because we have a bad roster, we have a great roster. We have a lot of really good players returning. We had a lot of really good players returning coming off of last season, going into 17 season, but we just want to make sure that every position is competitive, and that's what I like going into this next year. We're going to have a lot of competitive situations across the roster, not just at just the quarterback position. That'll be without question a very significant part of our development, but there's going to be other positions that are going to be highly competitive. Okay. And with that, Arthur Brathwaite, AJ Brathwaite as we call him, he's rolled off the presses, and he is signing number 15 from Miami Central High School as safety, and a very, very good player, hard-hitting safety, and plays some linebacker. He can do it all.
So Malik and Gunner are the two guys that are enrolling early?
Correct. Yeah. As of right now, Malik Okur and Gunner Britton are the two early enrollees, which is great because of the positional needs. With safeties that are obviously moving on, graduation, and in Marcus Ward and Jawan Gardner. That's going to be great to have Malik to come in and learn the defense and be immediately competitive at that position. Interestingly about Malik, he had a terrific junior year, but he was too old to play his senior year, so he didn't play a down of football per Florida State rules his senior year. So we got a really fresh Malik Okur, and he was coaching this year. So we got a fresh and mature player that didn't go through a senior season, and I think that'll be great. And then Gunner Britton, certainly that body type is going to be one that we need going forward, and those two are the guys that are going to be early enrollees. The unique aspect of our academic calendar here at WKU is that we could still bring in, a January signee, if you will, early enrollee that doesn't necessarily need to sign, could just enroll as a scholarship player, and there are several that we're looking at still. And so I think, having some wiggle room with your signing class, right now having roughly 9 spots open of your 25 for the NLI, I think that it allows allows us to explore the transfer market. It allows us to explore even the junior college market, which isn't a huge part of what I believe that we want to do going forward. But it is something that we'll look into in the month of January.
Any positions in particular where you might look at a transfer?
I think we're always just looking for the right fit, not just to bring in a transfer We really weren't looking for a wide receiver this past year, and then Cam Eccles-Looper was one that just kind of came across the wire, if you will, and he ended up being very productive for us. So it really isn't as much about we absolutely need to get a grad transfer or a junior college transfer. I do feel good about the offensive line bodies we have and the development that we need to get with that group coming out of spring. But losing what we've lost the last 2 years in the offensive line room, you always want to continue to upgrade that position.
Mike, was there anybody, the scouting service, the tape, your references from other people, throw that out that you went into and you liked them, but after seeing them face to face, it doesn't matter just the way they acted, that you thought, I gotta have it?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of those guys. I think one of them that really stands out to me is Trey Urquhart. Trey Urquhart's a linebacker that didn't have a ton of recruitment going at the time. Ended up really getting some significant recruitment after we offered him, and then after he committed to us. And in fact, he picked up a Louisville offer, reported offer, not too long after he committed to us. But Trey Urquhart was just the athleticism that he brought to the table on film really showed up, and you always don't know until you have a chance to sit in a young man's living room and be around his family. He is everything that we were looking for in a football player. Great athlete, great football intelligence, love of the game of football. He's got a younger brother that's like an All-American and the 9-year-old. It's a football family. They're from Alabama. They grew up right in the shadows of Alabama, Auburn, and even though he lives in Georgia now, just being around that family, you realize how important football is to them, and just how athletic he is and what he can bring to the table in so many different facets as a linebacker, as a special teams contributor, etc.
I guess January, the focus will be just kind of rounding out the class, maybe looking for some other guys that fell through the cracks elsewhere, kind of keeping your own.
Yeah, and the other part of it too that is unique is we do still have commitments. We still have commitments that are that I can't comment on today. But we have commitments that we'll end up signing February 7th that have remained committed, even though this December 20th period is a little bit of a put up or shut up type period. There are just certain players who just got done with their playoff runs. they're not quite ready to sign the dotted line. So we're going to continue to foster relationships with the committed players. Some of the reported commitments, as we all know, there's not a lot of quality control that goes into those the commit lists, but we do have several committed players that are at critical positions that we're gonna go down to February 7th and keep battling and fighting and scratching and clawing to make sure we get them to sign on February 7th.
When the team does get back in January, what will be the immediate message to them moving forward into the spring?
I think it's just the biggest one is let's just hit the ground running. I think the 2016, 2015 era is over. The 2017 season is in the books. We have a lot of really good pieces coming back to this roster. We were so close to being in such a different position. If you look at the games that we played in and how they finished up, let's hit the ground running. In 2018 is a brand new chapter. Let's go to work. To have any thought of what we've done in the past, good, bad, or indifferent, this has got to be the new season. This has got to be the 2018 season. Don't dwell on the past. Let's move directly on to what's in front of us today, and that's got to be our message. Is let's hit the ground running and let's start going back to work. And we're going to have one thing that I do really like about where our team's going to be, and certainly where I'm going to be as a head coach and the staff's going to be, is there's going to be an edge on in the way we do our business. We're going to have an edge. We got a lot to prove. I got a lot to prove. This team's got a lot to prove. These players have a lot to prove. And there's no coming off a season where everybody's patting our back. And I'm good with that. I kind of like that. I like being in a place of being a little bit honorary about our football team going forward.
You know, any changes right now, staff-wise or roster-wise, any guys that they're going to leave and go elsewhere?
Nothing as of today. I did meet with the staff, actually the entire staff at yesterday. Spent the entire day going through evaluation meetings with the staff. Went very well. And at this time, we're putting the best plan forward for how to put all the pieces in the right place. I love our staff. I think there's a lot of great components to it. Very proud of the work they put in from a recruiting standpoint, and doing all that with the bowl playing on the the date that we played, which was early. But we're gonna put I as the head coach I'm gonna put the pieces in the right place to move forward and make the appropriate adjustments and move on to the 2018 season. And we'll certainly have a conversation about that when the time's appropriate.
How would you evaluate your coordinators? Obviously, you know the offense, you know the defense, and then even your dad too with the special teams, the job they helped did this year.
I think the job that each one of the coordinators did, we have to live with the fact that we didn't finish the way we wanted to finish, and so we have to look really hard at what we did. We have to look at the utilization of different parts of our staff, even myself included, and how to incorporate into what we do so that we get the most out of what we do. And I think I'm proud of what the job that those guys did. They worked their tails off. I love our coordinators, and I think they do a great job. And I think it's just going back to what we did, particularly in the end of the year, and evaluate it and make the appropriate changes, both schematically and responsibility wise, and then we'll continue to move forward.
You know what you went to at that 10th assistant too that you get to add?
Yeah, I have an idea of what I want to do. Probably won't have an update on that until mid-January.
Anything else?
Mike, I have one more. And I realize it was 7 years ago. But recruiting now as a head coach here compared to when you were under Willie here 7 years ago, was there a case of deja vu, recruiting and selling the Hill, and at the same time, were there differences being a head coach here compared to the quarterback's coach? Do you know what I mean by that question?
I do. There definitely is some deja vu. Just the high schools that you walk into now, there's a lot more similarity to obviously when I was at Boise State. We weren't in this part of the country nearly as much. Selling what Western Kentucky's about, it's a similar message. It's an enhanced and improved message, in my opinion, because of the work that's been done on our campus and the profile, how it's the paradigm shifted in terms of what Western Kentucky football is versus what we were selling back in 2010. It's improved dramatically. So there is deja vu in that. The one thing that hasn't changed whatsoever is being on Coach Taggart's staff, being a part of that staff, realizing where our roster was at the time, where we needed to go, and then also right now and where we're going. There is no mistaking that you build programs and you build them through recruiting. And that I think the run that we went on in 2010 and 2011 class, if you go back and look at some of the players that signed in those classes, you're going to see some NFL players. And that's what has built this program is recruiting and then doing a great job of developing that talent and putting the schemes in place to utilize that talent. But the urgency back in 2010 and what we needed to do to build a program in recruiting, that same urgency is what I'm all about right now, building this thing going forward. And we look at this history, it is built on that foundation, and the lifeblood is recruiting.